How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Perfect Reload Weekly, where we take a look back at the week in video game news. My name is Steve, and this is it's Christmas. It's Christmas time here at the moon base. We have a tree. It's very festive. Christian, you in the holiday spirit at all this year? How you hanging?
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everyone! Now remember, you've got to keep your kids safe. This year we have multiple reports of Santa putting needles in the presents and broken glass in the ham. Stay vigilant, America!
Yeah, okay. I didn't realize broken glass in the ham, like Oz style, where they're like crushing it up and it's microscopic and then eventually you just bleed out from the inside. That's what Santa's doing this year. And back in my day, you just left presents, ate some cookies, had some milk. And, all right, times are a-changin'. But yes, it is. I'm filming on Christmas Eve, but it's Christmas for y'all. I hope that if you do celebrate Christmas, you have a good one. I hope you have a pleasant holiday. Christmas is my personal favorite holiday. It's my favorite time of the year. It gets cold out, and there's Christmas movies and all that good stuff. I had my annual tradition of my dog and I hung out on the couch, watched the Charlie Brown Christmas special, had a tiny bit of eggnog, and it was a good time, you know. I enjoy the season. I always look forward to the 24 hours of A Christmas Story. One year I watched it 6 times, and that was I don't know. I guess I had nothing better to do on Christmas. But yes, so holiday cheer all around. But we are not here to talk about holiday cheer. We are here to talk about video games, and I actually played quite a bit this past week. I thought about maybe doing some gameplay videos and putting them up on the channel, but ultimately just one of the games wasn't going to lend itself to that, and the other one I don't know, I just wasn't feeling. I didn't want to have to feel like I needed to kind of like be on, you know what I mean? Like I just wanted to just check out the game for a little bit. But I played actually a wide variety of games. I played new games, I played old games. You know, it was a pretty solid week worth of stuff. But I had a lot of personal stuff going on this week. I had to take yet another exam as I am finishing up those classes I enrolled myself in. And that's been super stressful. It's the first time in my life where I've taken a test in I have no idea when I'm going to get the results. It's one of those things where it's like, we don't even tell you when the results are in. You just have to log on to this website every day and check to see if you passed. And then at the exam, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, because it's the holidays, you guys might not find out until like some point in January. Don't stress out about it though. And it's like, that's all I'm doing. So that's been real great. But I figured this week we will start off with an old game. But I brought up last week that after finishing Alan Wake 2, I kind of had that taste of Remedy and I wanted more, so I decided to go back to Control. Control, I bought it when it came out. I won't rehash the whole thing from last week, but I bought it when it came out. I didn't play very much of it. Just kind of bounced off of it, traded it in, got something else, and just kind of never really thought about the game again. You know, I know that people really liked it and it was popular, and I remember, that year when it came out, a lot of the gaming podcasts I listened to, it came up a lot of Game of the Year and stuff like that, and people really enjoyed the game, but it was just really wasn't for me. But I decided to go back to it, and I had mentioned last week that I'd already gotten way past where I had left off when I had bought it originally upon release. And I was like, well, I think I'm about like a third of the way through or getting close to halfway through or whatever it may be. And I've since finished Control. I actually, the other night, I just kind of had nothing to do. The show that I had been binging on Netflix, I wrapped up and there wasn't really anything else that I wanted to watch. So I was like, well, I want to just sit down and play Control, and sit down and play Control I did, because I ended up just sitting down and just finishing the game in one whole play session that night. I played for hours. And I enjoyed it. I really did. I think they did some really cool stuff. I definitely understand. Everybody, I think the one thing that kind of got talked about the most through that game was the ashtray maze, much like how the musical portion of Alan Wake 2 gets talked about quite a bit. I mean, they did the whole performance of it at the Game Awards. And so when I finally got to the ashtray maze, which is like fairly close to the end of the game, for the most part, it was cool. I mean, I definitely get it. They did some really neat stuff with it, having the music play and the whole thing. I think that if you could say anything about Remedy Entertainment, the makers of the game, is that every single game they make, they iterate on in a really interesting way. You can see that like everything they do is like a prototype for what they're going to do next. And especially with Control, like a lot of the blending the FMV onto the gameplay, and they did FMV stuff in Quantum Break, the game that they did before. But I mean, that was like a television show type thing. You start to see a blend a little bit more in Control, and then obviously it's a really big part of the whole experience in Alan Wake 2, which has me now thinking it's like, well, what are they going to take that they did in Alan Wake 2 and then apply it to either Control 2 or, whatever it is they kind of do next. So it just has me really excited. I think that it's been a really long time since I've been this excited about a developer. I was firmly on the big bandwagon of BioWare back in the day. I think there was a period of time, between like KOTOR, Jade Empire, Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, where they were just like absolutely untouchable. Like they were really firing on all cylinders. And then unfortunately, stuff happens behind the scenes, and, Mass Effect 3 is, I have come around on Mass Effect. I have a whole video on the channel from years ago where I kind of changed my tune on Mass Effect 3, because for a really long point in time, if you had asked me what's the most disappointing game of all time, I would have said Mass Effect 3, and I have since changed my mind after playing through the game again. And I think another one that kind of comes to mind is Platinum Games. They've done Bayonetta and Vanquish, and I'm such a huge fan of Vanquish. I thought at one point in time, it's like, man, they are just unbelievable right now. And they kind of eventually sort of ended up collapsing, but Remedy seems to just kind of be getting stronger and stronger as they go on. And I think in some ways, like gameplay wise, Control feels like the culmination of what they were trying to do. But I think that the weakest part of Control is the gameplay. I was not super big into the way the combat felt in that game. As you get more powers, there's a little bit more variety, but a lot of it just kind of ends up being mindlessly shooting at bullet sponge enemies, throwing things from a distance. It just kind of becomes rinse repeat. And that's I think my ultimate biggest complaint about Control is the end of the game. They do so many really cool and interesting things to get you to the end, like that ashtray maze and the astral plane stuff, the stuff with Ati where you're going through like the big void in the basement of the oldest house, and all this stuff. And it's like, as I was building closer and closer to the end, I was like, man, I can't wait to see like what crazy ending sequence they are going to have in this game. Like, it's got to be some really amazing thing. And it is like one of the most wet noodle endings to a game ever. It's essentially just a big combat section of just facing waves of the same enemies over and over again, while the entire screen is bathed in red. And it was just like, oh, this is it? This is what we've been building towards? Like this? And I was just like, wow, they really just kind of like, it almost feels like they just like ran out of time. Like they'd done all these really cool, amazing things. Like, okay, it's the time for the end of the game. What are we going to do? Oh, just have the player fight, 100 enemies and then, some cutscenes. And I was just like, man, it was just so disappointing, And I think that I looked back on it, like obviously, Alan Wake 2 ends on a cliffhanger. Although they alter that cliffhanger a little bit with that New Game Plus stuff, you kind of get a happier ending with that. With Control, like there is like the like absolute like final ending. We're gonna talk a little bit about Control spoilers. The game's been out for years, you know. Where you do that like time loop thing where you're back to being like a regular employee, or not back to, you never were, but you're like a regular employee. And I was like, that's really cool. Like that's really inventive. And I guess you could in a way think about like, oh, that's the real ending, like that, you know, that's cool, you know. But I think to have like the final gameplay encounter in a big way is this just this mindless wave of enemies, I thought was just kind of a big letdown. And same with Alan Wake 2 in a way. Like there are some interesting boss fights in that game, but ultimately when you get towards the end, it's just kind of one big long cutscene, and it kind of takes away the player's involvement in a way. And I'm usually okay with big long cutscenes to wrap up your game. You know, you're going to have a cinematic end to your game like that. That's perfectly fine. But, you know, it just seems like maybe Remedy is having a hard time figuring out. They're so invested in the story, they're so invested in the narrative that the actual physical act of playing the game sort of starts to take a back seat. So I'm hoping with, you know, Control 2 or whatever they end up calling it, that they just kind of tighten that stuff up and have a more firm vision in mind of, you know, I'm sure they're going to have a big cutscene sort of thing to end the game. That's perfectly fine. But you're also going to have the climax of the gameplay as well at some point. And I hope that they have maybe a little bit more solid vision on that end. But I did overall really enjoy my time. I didn't play the DLCs. I wanted to move on to other stuff. So I just ended up looking. I had already had the Alan Wake DLC spoiled for me for Control when I was watching those videos to catch up to play Alan Wake 2, because I never played Alan Wake 1. So that all got covered during that. And then I was like, well, I guess I could go play the Foundation one, but I'm kind of done with the gameplay in this game, and it says that it's like a couple hours long, and it was just like, I don't know if I want to do it. So I just ended up watching like a video recap, and it looks really cool. Like it looks like they did some interesting stuff with it. But I think that the strongest stuff in that game is like the environmental storytelling, the level of details in the rooms, like all the old technology, the brutalist architecture, like all that stuff is just like the star of the show, the real highlight for that game. And I'm glad I finally gave it a second chance and played through. I am definitely really, really happy that I did. And I'm very excited for what they have coming out next. But my dive into Remedy is not ending. The Steam winter sale is going on, and lately I haven't been picking up too much on Steam sales. I did earlier this year. I ended up picking up the PC version of Cyberpunk and the PC version of Red Dead, but that was like, I don't think I bought really anything during the sales last year, maybe one or two things. And I was looking through the sale that's happening right now, and I was like, I don't know if there's really anything I want to get, but I decided to pick up Max Payne 1 and 2. I haven't played Max Payne 1 and 2 since I had rented them, you know, on PlayStation 2, you know, back in the early 2000s. I definitely never owned them. They would, you know, I have played them, so they would have been rentals, because that would have been the only scenario I would have played them under. And I'm looking forward to digging in. I don't know if I'm going to do that this coming week or not, because I kind of have something else in mind to play. But I am going to play through those games. I guess I don't remember them being that short. I was looking up, I had just kind of gone back. I was like, I kind of want to see what the reviews were at the time for Max Payne 1 and 2. And I remember more people really enjoying Max Payne 2 than 1, although they're both really solid games with solid review scores, but they were talking about the length. And so I was like looking up some of the stuff. I was like, well, how long is it? And it was like 4 hours. And I was like, well, I definitely didn't beat the first Max Payne, so I must have had it on a 1-day rental or something, or I was just terrible at the game, because I definitely, I'm sure I probably played it more than 4 hours, and I don't remember beating it. Maybe I did. Maybe I'll jog my memory or something, but I was like, oh, that's kind of surprising. So I'm looking forward to diving into that, and yeah, fully consider me a big ol' Remedy fan, and I'm very much looking forward to what they got going on.
That ashtray maze is the best visual representation of the decline in my organ functions I've seen yet. It's way better than the stick figures my doctor uses.
Dude, you need a different doctor if he's using stick figures. My doctor uses little magnets and pictures. He has a whiteboard. You gotta up your doctor art game. Up next, why don't we talk about a new game? Cookie Cutter is a new side-scrolling sort of beat 'em up in a way, but it's kind of like a Metroidvania style thing. I initially was going to make a video about it, but I just kind of wanted to play it and not think about it. I ended up playing it at it was like 8 a.m. yesterday morning or something like that. And it's really well made, one of those games from the amount of time that I played it for 45 minutes or something like that. It's well made. You got a couple different melee attacks, and there's some environmental stuff like jump pads you can jump onto and things like that. There's a little bit of a combo system in a way. I'm sure more things will open up the further I get in. I didn't have any weapons or anything. I imagine you get weapons at some point. It was just all physical melee attacks. Pretty basic story. It's like a dystopian future. You're created. You're like a robot created by the scientist, and the scientist and you fall in love with each other, and then she's taken away and you're destroyed, and this guy kind of puts you back together. The strongest thing that I have seen so far in this game, because this does not seem like it's a big release. It did get, some of these games that I find throughout the year that I've either shown on the channel or talked about, I don't really see a lot of coverage about them. A couple of them ended up getting some IGN reviews. So, on their YouTube page, they would have had a video, but a lot of them just kind of seem to be lost into the ether. And I thought this was going to be the way Cookie Cutter went, because it's coming out at the very end of the year. When everybody's either in catch-up mode or, Christmas is today, they're getting a new game and they're thinking about that new game. And it just seems like it's really lost in the shuffle. I think that it would have been better served if they had waited to put this game out just a few weeks, wait for the media outlets to kind of come back from their Christmas break and release your game, and it'd kind of be, the first game of the year that people talk about. And I think that maybe they could have adjusted that a little bit, unless they absolutely needed to get the game out and they couldn't have waited 3 weeks or a month or whatever. So, I mean, that's entirely possible, but it really does feel like it got lost in the shuffle. But I did see that IGN covered it in a way. So it was nice to see that they got some type of mainstream press coverage for it. But the strongest thing about the game is the animation. There's some seriously impressive animation in the way your character controls. There's the opening cutscene where you see yourself, the robot, get dismantled, and you're kind of crawling on the ground with your corpse, trying to get to the doctor that made you, and the I assume who was the main villain of the game. And the way she is animated as she's crawling on the ground is it stopped me in my tracks. I was like, oh my God, this is really, really nice. I wasn't familiar with the team that made it. At least I don't think it didn't ring a bell. I'll look it up real quick to see. Oh, Cookie Cutter. I might have to put Cookie Cutter game. Otherwise I'm getting pictures of actual cookie cutters on there. So it says it is a hand-drawn 2D game, which it definitely looks like it. So the developer, this looks like it is their first. It looks like this might be their first game. Really, really nice. I mean, really, like I said, stop me in my tracks with how well animated it is. And it does play, perfectly fine. I would say check it out. At the very least, look up some video footage if you like the Metroidvania style stuff. I think it'd probably be right up your alley. So I would certainly give it a look. It is on sale. It's the typical Steam thing where you'll see PC games, they launch and they're 20% off or whatever it may be. So I would say, I would recommend checking it out if you're a fan of that style of game. In the limited amount of time I had with it, I don't know if it necessarily is enough to bring new people into that style of game. Some of the voice acting is pretty rough in there. I assume a lot of the budget that they had probably went to that animation and, just the basic building blocks of making a game rather than having a super professional voice cast. But, I thought it was really cool, and I enjoyed my time with it, absolutely. And then next up it's not quite new. I believe it came out this year. It just kind of got lost in the shuffle. Let me see when it actually came out. It came out in August. Okay, this is Videoverse. Came out in August. And Videoverse is, I'm not quite sure what genre I would give it. In a way, it kind of seems like a visual novel, sort of. I'm trying to see what genre. Okay, they have it listed under, on Steam, they have it listed under Adventure Casual Indie and Simulation. I guess an adventure, point and click adventure-ish. Sure, I guess I could see that, but I also think it's got strong visual novel. There's no like action gameplay. There's no enemies or anything, at least that I encountered. And essentially what it is you play young boy sitting at a table. I think he's German. There's a lot of German in the game, but they are speaking predominantly English. But everybody also seems to know German. There's a lot of German greetings and goodbyes and things like that. I took 6 years of German, so I took 6 years of German in school, and I continued with it, throughout the years with like Duolingo and stuff. So I understand enough German. I can hardly speak it anymore, but if I'm reading it or I hear somebody talking, I can still pretty much pick up what they are saying. And I was like, okay, there's got to be some type of German slant to this game. I don't know, somehow. But anyways, I don't think that's a big part of the game. But it was just interesting. You don't see a lot of games they have a lot of German in it for whatever reason. But anyways, so you are a young boy sitting at his desk. It appears to be maybe the turn of the millennium. And you have, it appears to be simultaneously a video game console, but also a computer. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's called the Shark. And the game starts off and you're playing, it's obviously a ripoff of Final Fantasy. It's called Feudal Fantasy. And you're seeing like a cutscene play out and all this stuff. And then on the same gaming machine or whatever this thing is, you also then can go into this thing called Videoverse. And it's very much in the lines, if you're my age or older, you'll remember this, what kind of AOL looked like, where America Online had its own sort of UI and system to it. Like, yes, there was the regular internet browser in there, but it also had kind of its own chat rooms and pages devoted to things and online communities and bulletin boards and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of like that link between the old BBS system moving into the modern internet. It was kind of like that stopgap there, but it was just presented in a much more visually friendly kind of way. So you're looking through what are essentially bulletin boards, message boards, whatever you want to call them. And you can like posts, you can report people for being mean. You can comment on things, and when you comment on something, it'll give you like 3 different dialogue options, and sometimes you can be a straight up dick. And then you'll end up video chatting with a friend, and you'll talk to them, and he's trying to encourage you to get back into posting art online, like, drawings and pictures that you've done. So far, the ones I've seen are pretty much just related to this game. You spend a lot of time in the chat for fans of this feudal fantasy game, and it's a really interesting looking game. It's got the art is very reminiscent of like Game Boy era. It's like it's monochromatic, and there's different themes that you can apply, and it looks like there's different themes you can unlock as well. So I don't know if they eventually turn it into full color. Like the rest of the game is full color. Like if you see the kid sitting at his desk, there's some cutscenes where you're looking at him. It's got kind of like a comic book thing. There'll be like speech bubbles. And, that's all done in full color, but the actual Videoverse, system is all monochromatic, and it's, I don't know, it's one of those games where there's not much to do in it from an interactive perspective outside of just kind of clicking to progress the story to go forward. But, I've certainly played my fair share of games like that and have no issue with that genre, but it's certainly not for everybody, but it's a nice little distraction, kind of end of the year thing to catch up on, which is nice. It's like $10 on Steam. I would recommend it as long as you know what you're getting into. I would look to see if maybe there's a trailer online. I don't know if there is or not. And see if it's kind of up your alley, try and parse through some screenshots if there isn't a trailer, but it really is just kind of, it's sort of like a Twitter simulator in a way. And if you're up for that kind of thing, then I think it's got it's cool. It's obviously got a lot of themes of self-doubt and, self-esteem issues with the kid and his art. And, he mentions that, he posted some pictures online and, people in the comments kind of tore him up a little bit about it and stuff like that. So there's a big component to reporting people's messages. Like there's like UI tool tips that are like little tips that pop up, and it'll be like, remember, if you report people if they say something mean to other people. And then I think there's even like a thing in there. It's like, if you report 100 people, you'll unlock a theme for the game. So it's definitely like got a message of like trying to be positive on the internet and positive when interacting with people, because we've all spent enough time on the internet to know that people get very brave when they are anonymous and will say some horrific stuff online. That's certainly not new, but it is a byproduct of modern social media and the way the internet has been structured for quite some time. I remember I was a very early internet user. My dad was always really big into having like, whatever the hot technology of the time was. We were actually, our house in the small city I grew up in, we were the first people to get broadband there. I remember my dad like pre-ordered it like a year before it came, back then when it was called Roadrunner. And I remember we came out and the guys were like, yeah, you're our first like residential install. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And, started to play games online and all that stuff. And I remember when like steering wheels started coming out for the PC, my dad had to drive to go and get a steering wheel. And I remember we used to go buy PC games at Sam's Club. We'd get Midtown Madness or whatever NASCAR game was out. And, we always had a steering wheel in the house. And, when digital cable was a thing, we got digital cable, and when TVs went flat screen, we got a flat screen. Like, it was just kind of like he always wanted to stay on top of that stuff. So I've seen the internet really kind of evolve over the years, going from days of spending it in my parents' basement trying to launch a dial-up connection to some college to download a Simpsons mod for Quake or some shit like that, to now you can just, type in Max Payne mods and, you get 9 million results that you can easily download. So, I remember for a really long time being on the internet and being in chat rooms and not having to worry about people being a total asshole. Like, of course, they were always around because there's always assholes around, but it wasn't quite as big of a thing as it is now, where people get bullied into killing themselves on the internet. And it's just like, what is the society doing? Like, this is turning into a whole debate about something, but I mean, it's, it ties into the game in a way, but, it's an interesting game for certain. But like I said, that caveat, that asterisk on it, it's a recommendation for me. But if you know what you're getting into, if you've never played a game like this, it very may well not be for you. But hey, I think Steam's got that refund policy. You probably play, within 15 minutes, you know what this game is, and I guess if it's not for you, you could refund it. But that wraps up Videoverse, out now.
Oh, cool. An internet chat simulator. I'm honestly surprised you don't spend hours in some Discord talking to other fat morons every night. Good on you for choosing to sit in silence and swallow your feelings.
Yes. I really don't understand how Discord works. I get access to Discords through like one of the Patreons I subscribe to, and I just don't understand it. I guess I just don't understand what I'm supposed to do with Discord. Am I supposed to keep it on my phone? Is there a phone app? Is that what I'm supposed to do? And I just check it throughout the day, like I check Reddit or check Twitter. I guess that's what it is. I guess I don't really have the interest anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, message boards were a really big thing. I'd spend hours a night on message boards and in chat rooms with people. And I guess maybe that's what it's supposed to be, but I don't know. As I sit now, I just don't have the desire to do that. I guess I feel like I can do something more meaningful with my time. I don't know, but maybe in a year I'll be super into Discord or something. I have no clue. I feel like I've probably missed the boat on that. But the last thing to talk about, just kind of some of the random stuff I played. I ended up going back to Guardians of the Galaxy. I really loved that game. That was one of my favorite games that came out that year. Was that 2019? I think was when that came out. 2020, 2021. When did Guardians of the Galaxy? When did that game come out? 2020, yeah, 2020 was 2 years ago. It felt like 5. I went back and played some more of that. I loved that game. That game was great. I was just looking for something to play after finishing Control, and I saw that I still had it installed on my PS5, and I was like, yeah, let's fire that back up and play through some more of that. I think I'm gonna end up going through it again. I really enjoyed that. It's a shame that the whole team got sold off and they canceled the sequel, because I think that, there's some rough spots in that first game, but I think that if they had gotten the chance to do a sequel, they could have done some really cool stuff with it. And then I've talked about it. My biggest missed game this year was Baldur's Gate 3. I put some time into it. I put, 6-7 hours, something like that, into it. But for a game that size, that's not enough to have a fully formed opinion. That's why I was omitted from all my Game of the Year stuff, because I couldn't speak enough upon it because I just not played enough of it. And so I decided I'm going to sit down. I've finished pretty much everything I wanted to finish for the year. The Game of the Year stuff is all done and out of the way. I got sucked into Control and I finished that in a couple of sessions. It is now time to start Baldur's Gate 3. So actually this morning I fired it back up and I was like, let me see what I want to do. And I went back into my save. And the save started. I guess I must have left. I must have been pulled away to do something. I don't know. The dog needed to go out or whatever. Because when I loaded the save, I was in the middle of a conversation with another character. And I was like, I do not remember this conversation at all. So I picked a couple of dialogue options. And I was like, I guess this gets me out of this conversation. And then I was just in the world. And I was like, I don't remember what I was doing. I kind of remember it was something vaguely about a goblin camp and some witch and a cure and something like that. And I have this vampire with me, so I know I got him. And I don't remember what class I am. And I was just kind of moving around the world a little bit. And I was like, I just don't remember really anything about what I was doing. So I am going to just start a new save. So I think probably not the day you're watching this, was Christmas, because I'm going to be busy all day. But this coming week, I think I'm going to just start fresh in Baldur's Gate 3 and just kind of just go with it and see how far I get. I'm not going to put it in my head that I have to finish it or I have to get X number of hours into it. I just want to play and enjoy the game and not worry about I don't have to make a video for the channel. I don't even really have to talk about it in the show. I just want to just sit and enjoy and play the game and see if it's for me, because even, usually I can find out if a game's for me like pretty early on, but I was several hours in this game and I still couldn't really tell, like, is this something I want to really invest 60, 80, 100 hours into? I haven't done that in a really long time. I don't play a lot of games that are that long. And, even something like Starfield I wrapped up in, I think, under 50 hours. So, I mean, it's very rare. Maybe once a year, once every 2 years, I play a game that's that long. But, we've got a lot of time, 3-4 weeks until Prince of Persia comes out, which is, for me, kind of the first big release of 2024. So why not spend that time playing Baldur's Gate 3? So I'm going to dive into that this week and kind of see where we go. And, so good stuff all around. And I think that's going to wrap up what I have been playing, and we'll be back in just a moment with the news. All right, we are back with the news, and it's the end of the year, and a lot of media outlets right now, are just closed. People are on vacation, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen for next week's show. There's really not going to be a lot going on. No game releases coming out, and no news is really going to be happening unless something really crazy happens. So we will see, but we have a follow-up to a story from last week, the Insomniac hack. So at the time, I had brought it up and said, hey, Insomniac got hacked, some personal information got out, some details about some upcoming games got out. And then very quickly after that news story broke, but after I had filmed, the breadth of what came out happened, because they essentially, the people that hacked had a threat saying, if you don't do X by this time, we're going to release all this stuff, and that had happened. So they had released everything. Now, I don't want to go detail by detail about all this stuff, because that's just giving attention in to these people that are just pieces of shit for doing this. I very much like to be surprised by game announcements. I don't want everything to leak. I don't need to know everything. I don't really like reading leaks, like Jeff Grubb and the stuff at Inside Gaming, and even Jason Schreier to an extent. Like, I just think it's kind of like the lowest form of game coverage in a way. It's just like, why do you want to take the fun out of things? It's just, I don't know. I don't like it. I feel like if these people had made something creative in their life and then somebody ruined the surprise, they'd be pretty upset. And that's pretty much what they do. That's kind of what Jeff Grubb kind of hangs his hat on, is that he's the guy that leaks stuff. And it's just like, okay, cool, man. Like, I don't know. It's just not for me. But, the reason why I want to bring this up is because it is a major story, and, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, it really just kind of puts a damper on things. And, you know, it's just kind of sad that this all happened. Like, the stuff that got leaked was like way more than I thought. Like, it's bad enough that their like timeline of game releases for like the next like 13 years got released. Which really sucks. I mean, we knew that they were working on Wolverine. They had announced that they were doing Spider-Man 3. And there's some other stuff that got talked about in there that was kind of a surprise. And I think the thing to me that I'm looking at the timeline right now, I'm not going to read it off. If you want to look at it, you can go find it yourself. But, you know, from what I had said when I had talked about the end of Spider-Man 2, when I did the episode of the podcast where I go into full Spider-Man 2 spoilers, and at the end of that conversation, I kind of talk about like, here's what I think is going to happen with this timeline. And I thought I was probably pretty spot on the money, and it turns out I was not by any stretch, at least what they have planned coming out over the next few years for the Spider-Man franchise. It looks like they're pretty heavily focused on Spider-Man for the next 4 years ish, you know, and it's just like, oh, that's like, now it makes me feel like, not because I was wrong or anything, but it's just like, oh, that's what they're going to do. And I wish I didn't feel like that, because I want to be surprised, even if I was wrong and they take that series in a totally different direction. Like, I want to be surprised by that and see it presented the way that they want to present it, not just have it be lines in a Kotaku news article, you know, like it's just a really shitty situation kind of all around. The one thing I will comment on about the list of new IPs and stuff that they had released is I was really surprised that in the next 13 years, they did not have another Ratchet and Clank slotted in. That's really strange to me. Because Rift Apart was fantastic, and it was an unbelievable game and should definitely have a sequel. There should be more of it. Now, obviously, you know, we don't know when this stuff was typed up. You know, it got leaked, but this could be a year old and things could have completely changed. Some of these games could have been canceled by now, and we would have never known because they weren't scheduled to be released until 2029 or something like that, you know? So a lot of this could be completely different, could be completely changed. The reception to Spider-Man 2 could have completely changed the trajectory that they want to go in. You know, the whole bunch of stuff. The only thing that seems like it's probably set in stone is because we already know that Wolverine was coming out, is that they are still working on Wolverine, and, you know, that game is coming out in the near future. But beyond that, like, who knows if any of this stuff is going to stay the same or not. But Insomniac did eventually, they, you know, as they should have, until they could kind of collect themselves. They stayed silent on this whole thing until just a couple of days ago, when they put out kind of a press release, I guess you could say, that was on Twitter. So here we go. Thank you for the outpouring of compassion and unwavering support. It's deeply appreciated. We're both saddened and angered about the recent criminal cyber attack on our studio and the emotional toll it's taken on our dev team. We have focused inwardly for the last several days to support each other. We are aware that the stolen data includes personal information belonging to our employees, former employees, and independent contractors. It also includes early development details about Marvel's Wolverine for PlayStation 5. We continue working quickly to determine what data was impacted. This experience has been extremely distressing for us. We want everyone to enjoy the games we develop as intended and as our players deserve. However, like Logan, Insomniac is resilient. Marvel's Wolverine continues as planned. The game is in early production and will no doubt greatly evolve throughout development, as do all our plans. While we appreciate everyone's enthusiasm, we will share official information about Marvel's Wolverine when the time is right. On behalf of everyone in Insomniac, thank you for your ongoing support during this challenging time. They were basically held hostage, ransom note, essentially. The people that were doing this wanted 50 Bitcoins, which market value right now for that is about $2 million. So I would say probably the biggest thing that got released out of all this isn't necessarily the company's timeline, because like I said, that could change, but there was a playable build of Wolverine. I had no intention of seeking that out, but as I was scrolling on X the other night, it just popped up. So I watched a few seconds of it. I will say this, it's obviously a very early build. You know, the characters models were very kind of crude, and it was just, you know, gray geometry instead of any detailed buildings or anything. But man, it looked butter smooth. I mean, it looks like that game is going to be super fun to play. And I am very much looking forward to it. Insomniac is definitely established itself as one of my favorite developers in the world. I think the world of them, and I think it really sucks that this happened to such a great studio that makes such amazing games. Especially, you know, I talked about this in Game of the Year, where we're in a time where so many games have these horribly depressing stories, and Spider-Man 2 is a very dark story in a way. You know, talking about human corruption and you know, consumer, not consumerism in money sense, but like the consuming of natural resources in the world, and evil overtaking things and all that, you know, and the power of friendship and broken promises and broken relationships and all this stuff. And, you know, it deals with some heavy subjects, but it's also like super goofy at times, and it's very light and lighthearted. And, you know, I think that Insomniac, you know, they make these very bright and colorful games, and they stand out so much against all these drab, dreary, black and gray and smoke-filled worlds that we're getting in so many, you know, big AAA games, mainstream games, that they just, you know, they have such a kind of a positive impact on the industry with the stuff that they do, and it just sucks. And it's, you know, it's no fun for them. And, you know, I hope that they can get through all this stuff. I hope with the personal information that got out, none of that stuff has been posted, at least in the mainstream press, which it shouldn't be. I would hope that nobody would be stupid enough to do that. But hopefully it doesn't have people's like home addresses and phone numbers. I assume it probably does. And that's just shitty, because it opens people up to much more direct and terrifying harassment than just having their X profile being tweeted at and stuff like that. So it's just a shit situation all around, and hopefully nothing truly horrible comes out of it.
I know I'm not necessarily the most up and up person on this planet, but fuck whoever hacked them. Get a real job and some self-esteem.
Every once in a while you have a pretty good take, and yeah, I agree. Fuck those people. And speaking of stuff that sucks, our next story, unfortunately, James McCaffrey passed away. We talked a lot at the top of the show about Remedy and Max Payne. The voice actor of Max Payne was James McCaffrey. He was also, I just played Control. He played Trench in Control. He was in quite a bit of stuff. And you know, he had a really solid career, and it's, you know, it's just not great. You know, I had obviously started to have a stronger connection with him over the past few weeks, having played Remedy stuff. I believe he was also in Alan Wake's too. Yeah, he was Thomas Zane. And he voiced Alex Casey, who in much like Alan Wake or in Max Payne, Sam Lake, the creative director at Remedy, you know, he has the face for Max Payne, and then in Alan Wake 2 he plays Alex Casey, but James McCaffrey voiced both of those parts because, you know, Sam Lake has a very strong Finnish accent. And so, you know, I had obviously started to have this pretty strong connection to James McCaffrey's work over the past few weeks, and so for him to die right now is it's horrible for his family. Just not great. He was diagnosed with multiple myeloma and passed away from that. That also hits close to home. That's how my father passed away, was multiple myeloma. So it's just, you know, really shitty situation. You know, cancer of any form, you know, really just takes away everything that you have, and just not great. We will move on from the sad news and talk about what will hopefully be happy news. We've gotten, I think this article is a little bit misleadingly titled. This is from VGC. Tom Ivan says Sega offers new details on Jet Set Radio, Streets of Rage, and classic reboots. At the Game Awards, we got that trailer of them kind of showing that some of these classic Sega games were getting rebooted, and now we have some. It says new details. All this really is just kind of like a tagline kind of thing, like a one sentence description of the game. It's not much, but it gives us a little bit of something. So we will read these off. Crazy Taxi. Innovative and fresh style driving action, cheerful feeling of freedom, X-fusion of nature and city, peel out the new stage of Crazy City. The capitalization in this sentence is very strange. So I'm not sure if that has maybe peel will be a mechanic and that's why they have it capitalized. Infusion is capitalized. I don't know if that's going to be something because in some of these other write-ups, random words are capitalized as well. So I don't know, maybe it's just for emphasis. Who knows? The next one, Jet Set Radio, counterculture, period. Tokyo Street open world. Experience the rebellion movement that feels free in a suffocating society. Make friends, increase your fans, and create a movement. That sounds like you're leading a cult and not rollerblading and spraying graffiti on stuff. They don't mention graffiti at all in there. But yeah, that sounds like a cult leader simulator. Shinobi. Slay the enemies in the silence of the moment. Run through the world of Shinobi, full of monsters and ninja actions. I love ninja actions. Grab Oborozuki, the legendary sword, and slay evil. Evil is capitalized. Once more, your clan and the world are counting on you. That's probably the most normal one so far. Okay. Golden Axe. Warriors arise to subdue the demons! Exclamation point. Defeat your enemies with a variety of attacks with swords and magic. The legendary story about the battle axe, Golden Axe, is about to begin. These read like they were written in Japanese, put into ChatGPT, and then Google translated into English. Streets of Rage Revolution, beloved side-scrolling beat-em-up action series. Take control of one of the ex-officers and make the city a place where people no longer have to walk the streets of rage. And they are using the tagline, power the next level for all of this stuff. I am very much looking forward to all these, except for probably the Golden Axe. I love Golden Axe, but it's like a 3D, third person game. And the previous Golden Axe they tried doing that just didn't work. They should have just stayed the way it was. But Crazy Taxi is one of my all-time favorite arcade games. I played the shit out of the Dreamcast version. Love Jet Set Radio. Shinobi, whatever. I was not even a Ninja Gaiden fan. I was a Ninja Spirit TurboGrafx. That's mine that I go back to. And then Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage is good. It sounds like I saw something, I couldn't confirm it because it was just kind of in passing, but it seems like somebody figured out who the developer for the new Streets of Rage is, and it's somebody that's been making some modern beat 'em ups that have come out over the past couple of years. I couldn't find the article. I saw it in passing, and I tried going through my search in my browser to try and find it, and I couldn't pull it up, but it sounded like they have these are legit full-fledged games. Obviously they're gonna be shorter in length because they are, they're more arcade style games. I would say probably the longest out of all of them would be Jet Set Radio because that was never an arcade franchise where the rest of these were. But I am eagerly looking forward to it. It sounds like these aren't going to happen anytime soon. They are still hiring for them right now. There was I can't remember who it was. I can't remember if it was Remap Radio or maybe MinMax. Maybe it was even Kind of Funny that was talking about this trailer and said yeah, these games, what they're showing is probably all they have. These teaser trailers are kind of designed to get people to come and join the studio as they're actively hiring for them. So I'm going to say it's probably going to be at least 2-3 years before we see any of these. But it's cool to see that Sega is working on this stuff. They have such a great library of franchises that they've just not really done much with. And so it's nice to see them, focus on something that isn't another disappointing Sonic game. So, color me interested. I am looking forward to it. It should hopefully be good.
Remember the Jamaican guy from Crazy Taxi?
No.
Well, I got an audition last week to be the new voice actor for the role. I I was immediately asked to leave, though, after I offended everybody by dressing up in traditional Jamaican clothing. It's not my problem that bobsled suit was crotchless. It was left over from a fan film I did during one of my down years.
You've had a lot of down years, and I don't remember a Jamaican guy in Crazy Taxi at all. Maybe in Crazy Taxi 2, but we don't talk about Crazy Taxi. What the fuck are you talking? Oh, God, it's Christmas. It's Christmas. Can't get mad. It's Christmas. All right, our final story this week, kind of a sad story. Speaking of hacks and leaks and all that stuff, the young man who, I don't even know if you can say he's a teenager, so I don't even know if he's a child, I guess, would be more accurate than young man, who hacked GTA 6 has been handed an indefinite hospital order. This is actually coming from the BBC. Oh, he is 18. I'm sorry. I think he was younger when it happened. It says an 18-year-old hacker who leaked clips of a forthcoming Grand Theft Auto game has been sentenced to an indefinite hospital order. I'm not going to get into some of the details. You can look it up because I don't like saying people's real names on some of this stuff. He was a key member of international game. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Lapsus. There's a $sign at the end, so I don't know if it's Lapsus $sign or Lapsus with 2 S's. I'm not quite sure. But the gang's attacks on tech giants, including Uber, Nvidia, and Rockstar Games, cost the firms nearly $10 million. This is coming from Joe Tidy over at BBC as I paraphrase some of this stuff. He will remain at a secure hospital for life unless doctors deem him no longer a danger. From some of the details that have come out after the story was published, is it seems like he has been telling everybody he is hell bent on repeating these acts. He has not kind of learned his lesson in any way. He is going to do this again. He said that he is going to do this again if they let him out, basically. And there's another member who is still underage that they haven't named, that was also found guilty, and they have some information at him. He was sentenced to an 18-month stay at a youth rehabilitation order. I'm assuming that's a British version of like juvenile detention. And it says that this 17-year-old has intense supervision and a ban on using VPNs. But for the 18-year-old hacker, the subject of this story, so they do bring up the fact that he is autistic. That may have something to do with the fact why he is like so hyper focused on this and said that he is going to do it again. I have a lot of family members that are autistic, and they many times hyper fixate on a singular thing. This may be what it is for this person. It says that he was violent while in custody, dozens of reports of injury or property damage. He was unfit to stand trial due to his severe autism. Let's see here. It says a mental health assessment used as part of the sentencing said he continued to express the intent to return to cybercrime as soon as possible. He is highly motivated. He said he was on bail for hacking Nvidia and in police protection at a Travelodge hotel. While he was there, he continued hacking and carried out the hack on GTA. He hacked the GTA servers, Rockstar in general, by using an Amazon Fire Stick and the hotel TV in his cell phone. That's about it. He stole 90 clips of unreleased footage of GTA 6. He broke into the company's internal Slack system and said, if Rockstar does not contact me on Telegram within 24 hours, I will start releasing the source code. He then posted the clips and the source code on a forum. He was arrested and detained until his trial. Absolutely insane. I mean, I guess this goes to show how talented he might be using a Fire Stick and a hotel television in his cell phone. I mean, my God. This kid obviously knew what he was doing. So that's just absolutely insane. And I do hope that a similar fate befalls whoever did this to Insomniac, and there was jail time associated with it. But man, this is a shame for this kid whose life is now kind of gone at such a young age. To be in this indefinite hospital stay because he's just not fit to be out on his own, I guess, so definitely I didn't realize how depressing this episode was going to be, but it ended up being a little bit of a downer, I guess. What a way to end the year, right? I mean, we still have, there's still another episode. Oh no, next week's episode is in January. So yeah, I guess maybe we'll start the year off in a more positive fashion, I hope. But that's going to wrap up the news. I guess I will talk about this a little bit at the end here. I know not a lot of people stay until the end, but some do. So I talked about this in the community post the other day. Always keep an eye on the community tab on YouTube. That's where I post like schedule stuff and just general channel updates and all that. But I've been spending a lot of time over the past few weeks thinking about what I want the future of this channel to be, goals for 2024 and things like that. And, kind of using, sort of my first full year of really taking this seriously. This is a hobby for me. This isn't, it certainly isn't my job. I don't make any money doing this. But I take it incredibly seriously. I devote quite a bit of time to this. And, this first real full year of doing that and trying to see like what I accomplished. I grew, I looked it up. I did the math. It was like a 200% increase in subscribers or something like that. And oh my God, I think at the beginning of the year, I had 3,000 views on the channel or something like that. And we're about to hit 40,000. I mean, it's like, it's been really crazy to see this thing actually grow and people communicating and leaving comments and liking videos and share. The thing that really surprised me when I looked at they sent it, if you in the YouTube creators app on your phone, they sent you a little thing that like gave you some detailed breakdowns of how your year went. What videos worked, what videos didn't work, all that stuff. And I was really surprised with how many people shared my videos. That was super cool. I didn't get to see that usually throughout the year. Maybe I'm just not looking for it when I'm looking through the creator app. But that's awesome. If you did that, I really appreciate that. Like if you thought that like, hey, I like this and maybe somebody else will, and you shared it, that's awesome. I really do appreciate that. That was a good feeling to see that. But there are definitely going to be some changes next year. Nothing like crazy huge or anything like that. But, I've got a better idea of what's working and what's not working. I think, I might end up doing like a channel update video where I kind of detail some of this stuff more in depth. But I think what we're going to see is probably more emphasis on the shorts because that's what brings in the audience. Probably a little bit less emphasis on covering games with gameplay videos. I'm not going to stop them by any stretch, but I think I'm just going to be more selective of the games that I choose to sit down and record a video about rather than just like, here's everything that came out this week. The podcast isn't going away. That's going to stay the same. Full Motion Sickness, which I haven't done an episode in a few months. I am doing another episode over the next couple of weeks. That is happening. But I am starting to, even though I've done less than a dozen episodes of that thing, I am starting to run out of games that are feasible to do because a lot of the big FMV games that are still out there are like hours of footage. And it's like, nobody's going to sit and watch a 3-hour video or a 2-hour video of me commentating over this. So that show will probably evolve in some way. I want to get way more, I only got 2 of the animated videos done this year. I want to do more. I'm already knee deep in production on the next one, which I'm still hoping will be out in January, but it is a time sink. I am doing a lot more detailed kind of stuff with the animation in this one. In all the animated ones I've done before, there's always just been one singular character on screen. Now I'm having 2 characters on screen for all of these shots. Sometimes there's even more, and just trying to like mechanically figure out how to do that in Premiere with stuff not overlapping or looking too weird. Like obviously those videos are always going to look weird because A, I'm a bad artist, and B, that's kind of the point. But there's like a good bad and a bad, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to figure that out. But I think a January release is still probably somewhat feasible for that. But yeah, we're going to make some changes, like I said, nothing too crazy. Some branding changes. Those animated videos don't really have a name. I just call them Perfect Reload videos. But that doesn't make any sense to call them that, because it like all of these are Perfect Reload videos, right? Because that's the name of the channel. So to call it that, and then I've relegated myself to calling it the animated videos. Like it needs an actual brand. So it will have one coming, next year. But I've got some ideas for different things. There's still different things I want to do with this podcast, where it's just, I have all the ideas. It's just kind of a money situation where I have to spend the money to find an artist to do stuff because I'm not artistically inclined. But we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be nothing but good stuff in 2024. I think we're going to have a fun time on this channel. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. It is Christmas here in America, and maybe not where you are, you filthy heathens, and find Santa. That's all I can say. But if you are celebrating, I hope you had a good one. If you're watching this after the fact, I hope you got some good presents. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. Christian, you have anything to say before we log off for the week?
I hope everyone has a great holiday, and make sure not to let what your uncle says bother you too much. Remember, this is what you have to look forward to.
That's true. Yeah. You will turn into a sad uncle at some point. That's what you're relegated to. But that's going to do it for me, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you again real soon.